this engine cover, just slide up, pull it out. We're going to take this air snorkel off, use an 8mm socket. You can loosen up the worm clamp right there, and then also right here. Then a 10mm socket, take these two bolts off. Then you can grab this hose, slide this out, slide the snorkel up, out. There is a connector right here. You're going to push down on the terminal, slide that off, and slide it out. Disconnect the connectors. There's one right here. Just move the wiring harness. There's a little retainer right here. If you have to, use a trim tool. Try to pry this out. There's a bracket right here. And there's a clip right there, and then disconnect it from the throttle body. There is a little lock tab on here. You just take a screwdriver and just slide it back and push down. Should be able to slide that off. There we go. Slide that out of the way. Take this hose off. It's a vacuum hose that goes to the brake booster. It just slides off. Take this clip off here. That's out of the way. There's a vent right here. Just slide this off the bracket. Out of the way. A couple other hoses. You can slide those out of the way. There's two nuts right here. Take those out. Use a 10mm socket. Take those off. This bracket right here, I'm going to remove that. It's going to make it a little easier. Use the same 10mm socket. Take these two bolts off. Now just grab the bracket and just slide it out of the way. Take these two nuts off. Use a 10mm socket. Now we're going to take the intake bolts out. There's 3 right here, and there's 4 down below. They're a little bit tricky to get to. Use an 8mm socket. I need to move this hose out of the way, so just slide this off the airbox. Just move this up. Just move this hose out a little bit. And there's two 10mm bolts that are attached to a bracket. Take those out. There's a cable right here attached to this bracket. We want to get this bracket off. So use a trim tool. Take the retainers off so the cable's out of the way. Another retainer right here. You can take that one off, slide that out of the way, and there's two nuts or 2 studs that attach to this. There's another wire right there as well. Now I'm going to take those two studs out. Use a 13mm socket. You could use a 13mm ratchet wrench too. Slide those out. If you're having trouble getting this from here, you could try to go in through the fender well. Now you can grab that bracket and slide it up. Take this foam off right here. Just use the trim tool. Pop these clips up. And just push this back a little bit. And just slide the insulation to the side. Try to move it to this side. Just trying not to rip it. And grab it, slide it up. Grab this foam insulation, set that aside. Disconnect the connector for the coil. Right here, just push down on the tab, slide it off. Take a 10mm socket. Take this bolt out and grab the coil. You might have to wiggle it back and forth a little bit. And slide it up just like that. Before we take the spark plug out, just take a blowgun with some air and just blow out the hole in case there's any dirt or grime in there. Then it won't fall into the engine. Now take a spark plug socket. This happens to be a 5/8 spark plug socket with a long extension. And take the spark plug out. Once it's loose, you should be able to do it by hand. And slide it out. Take the new spark plug, you can put it in the socket, and it's always a good idea to check the gap with a gapping tool, and you want to check that, and it should be 0.043 of an inch. Slide this down very carefully. And tighten it down. Tighten it down by hand first. And we can torque this to 13 foot-pounds. Now slide the coil in place. Get the bolt started by hand. Just snug it down. Make sure it's snug. That's good. Plug in the connector. And it's the same procedure for all the other ones. Now we're going to replace the intake gaskets. Whenever you remove the intake, it's a good idea to replace these. Just take a pick. Just get underneath here and they slide right out. I'll just wipe this down with a little brake parts cleaner. It looks pretty good. The new gaskets, and they're all the same. Line them up and push them down. Doesn't matter which way is up or down, they're both the same. And those are all the way down. Now we can put the intake on. Now we can put this foam pad on. Just wipe the bottom of the intake. Just make sure there's no gasket material on here. That looks good. And just slide this in position. As sliding it in place. You want to keep in mind of that bracket on the passenger side. You got to get it underneath that bracket. All right, pull those up and get all the bolts started. I'm going to start from the center and snug these down. Now I'm going to torque these to 89 inch-pounds. The same alternating bolts. Now take this insulation and just slide it in, tuck it in behind. You could also try to do this before you torque the intake down. There we go. And push it down. Reattach these hoses. Smaller one right here. And this one is going to go on the airbox. Good. I'll install this bracket. Just slide it in position. You can get two of the nuts started up top. Don't tighten those down yet, just so it doesn't fall off. And take the two studs. Get those started. And tighten those down. Tighten the nuts up top. Now install this bracket. Line that up over the studs. Get the two bolts started. $10mm socket. Now attach the brake booster hose. Line that up, push it on. And you can attach all the hoses to the brackets and the wiring harnesses. And connect the connector up here. Slide the harness in the bracket there. Retainer right there. Connect the throttle body. Oops. Slide the intake hose on. Connect this connector before you slide it all the way down. Lock it in. Get these two bolts started. And tighten these down. Push this hose back in place. Goes right there. And push down.